Hello. I always have to wait a little bit because this technology doesn't show me who's here or who's not. So for those of you joining later, as in replay viewers, welcome to the mess. And this live. I'm super excited. Lighting is a little bit interesting because we're heading, let's see, next week in Switzerland we have daylight savings time. Hi. And we're working on all of that. The lighting in here will have to be different. Yay! It's like all of a sudden there's nobody, and then all of a sudden there's somebody and everybody and a bunch of people. So if you're here, please let me know that you are. If you know anybody who could benefit from this conversation, please share this video with them. Not like all over the place, just with anybody that maybe comes to mind that you'd like to share this conversation with. Hi, Lokesh. Hi, Michaela. Hi, Karin. So, before I jump into the questions and what the topic of this is, well, it's not off topic at all. Sometime earlier, maybe an hour ago or so, I shared a post about teenage rebellion, and I love how life kind of just delivers you. I also just did a post about not being an expert, and as a parent, I never would ever put those two words, parent and expert, together, because it's always like this only now in this moment. Hi, Robert. Hello. A now in this moment thing. So I post a thing about rebellion, and all of a sudden, at about 3:30, like between 3:15 and 3:45, so right after I posted it, my daughter and I, my 15-year-old, we just went like head to head. We just went head to head. We argued. We didn't yell at each other, but there was tension in the voice, and she went outside and she slammed the door and she sat on the couch and she ignored me, and I was getting mad and felt like I was going through this whole thing about disrespect, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, I just wrote about this. And here I am in this, catastrophe with my 15-year-old. And it's normal, you guys. It's normal to argue with anybody, not just with your teenagers. And it was an argument over dishes. And it was an argument over timing and communication and showing up and all these really weird things. And she went off. I started to get ready for this live, and she went off and just drummed. She just got out her frustration. She was drumming, and I was breathing, and I was going through the things that I do when I'm triggered or I'm not feeling comfortable or I'm arguing with somebody. I'm like, okay, what's going on with me? Where's my stuff? I need to know what that is in order for me to come down and see really clearly. And as she's drumming and I'm doing this work, and then she goes on her couch, and the energy started to shift, right? I could feel like, okay, now that crackly tension has eased, right? We both went and did what we needed to do to kind of blow off the steam of it. And then just before I came up here, I went over and, I went and I looked in the sink, and she had left a couple of glasses. I asked her to do the dishes in the sink, and she had left a little cup and a glass. And this was her rebellion. You're not going to be the one who gets the last word. And all I did when I looked in the sink was I just laughed. I'm like, oh man, it's hilarious to me. This is not something that upsets me. But that needing to have the last say, that needing to be seen, that needing to be right. We all have it. All of us have it, but it's really strong in teenagers. And it needs to be recognized. So I went over and I pinched her butt. I said, hey, you just did that on purpose. You left those in there to be a rebel. And she's like, yes, I did. And she was so satisfied from those dishes in the sink. And I think it's really important to not take arguments too seriously. It's not the end of the world. It's not oh my God, our whole relationship is falling apart, right? Because I know there's a foundation. She knows I'm not going anywhere. So when there's an argument, she's like, okay, we're having a fight. We're arguing right now. It's okay. Hi, Hemendra. All right. So starting with the first, I asked the question. Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to have to put this over here. Or not. I'm just trying to stretch something out so I can read it. Sorry, guys. Technically challenging moment. Okay, there. That way, this way I can still see your comments and read what I was looking at. So yesterday I asked the question, as a human being in a conversation around parenting, what would support you the most to speak about? And I'm going to go just down the line, and if you have any questions or you have something that really resonates or that you want to ask or you want to put into the conversation, please do. And I picked for the first, I will get as many as I can in this time while still being present with those of you that are here live. But I picked the very first contribution to the conversation was what would help you in the conversation. And the answer was navigating different parenting styles between mom and dad and not letting it ruin your sex life. So I pick this topic for the very beginning because it seems like something very simple, but I think it hits a lot. Not just like it's such a powerful. There's so much in the question in this subject. There's so much in the subject. I'm assuming what she meant was that the desire, the mojo to have sex with each other because you're arguing over parenting styles is an issue in a marriage and in a relationship and in a parenting environment. So I'm going to kind of like take this sharing into two pieces. So the topic of the first piece, which is different parenting styles. And for her, it was between mom and dad, but it could be between mom and mom, dad and dad, whatever the configuration. It could even be between mother, father, like a single parent and a grandparent, whoever is in the parenting relationship with your child. And how do you navigate? How do you navigate? I have this way of being a parent, and they have that way of being a parent. And obviously, some of the stuff they do, I don't like, and some of the stuff I do, they don't like. So how do I navigate that parenting paradigm? And I'm just going to be straight up. Like, you have to know that you cannot control the way somebody else is. You cannot control the relationship between your child and their father. You cannot control the relationship between your child and their mother. You have very little, you have influence, but you have very little say in the relationship that your child is going to have to their other parent. And a lot of reasons that we clash with our partner when it comes to parenting, and I'm just going to be really honest here. My husband and I have completely different parenting styles. We're completely different people. Like, we are totally different. And this is a really good thing. It's a really, really, really good thing for our kids that there aren't two same exact parents in the household with the same exact ways of parenting. So the first way to navigate it is to just recognize I can never know, I can never control the relationship between my kid and my husband or my spouse. I can never control that. I can influence. I can say, hey, this works for me, or that doesn't work for me. Or this concerns me, or this makes me scared, or I feel uncomfortable, or, but not like you're doing it wrong. One of the most powerful things my husband ever said to me was, Shanti, when you talk to the kids like that, it hurts me. He didn't say you're a shitty mom. He didn't say you're hurting the kids. He didn't say you're messing shit up. He didn't say you need to do that different. He said, it hurts me. And I had the opportunity to sit back and go like, oh, let me feel about this. Let me think about this. Sorry, I have Facebook open in the background to get these questions, so it's going to be going. I could have copied and pasted, but I didn't. So that's the first one, is to recognize that the relationship that my children have with my husband is really not my business. Not at all. Like, if he, now there's a whole nother story about like abuse, or that's not what's happening in this scenario. This is a normal, healthy family dynamic, is to know that my kids are going to have they're going to have different discipline. They're going to have different boundaries from their father than they're going to have from me. And that's going to be something that I'm going to navigate with my husband all the time. It's this consistent thing. It's never going to end so long as you have children together, so long as you're in a relationship. You're going to always be navigating that you're different. You have different ideas. You have different worldviews. You have different philosophies. You have different ways of relating. You have different needs and different ideas. And it's really important to respect that. You can look at it like two people are coming together, a man and a woman, a woman, a man and a man. They're coming together into a relationship, but they're actually coming from two very different cultures. And this is like at the very, very micro level of what I'm using the word culture as. the way that you singularly grew up is your culture. The way that they grew up is their culture. The patterns that they carry is their culture. The patterns that you carry are your culture. And you're actually coming together and you're bringing these two completely different cultures together, and then you're having children. So it's about being respectful and honoring the other culture while also being respectful and honoring your own culture. So, and then honoring the culture of the relationship that is created between the two of you. You now create a culture, right? So there's three cultures in the relationship. There's yours, there's theirs, and there's the culture that the relationship brings in. To respect and honor that it's going to be different. To understand some of the shit they do you're not going to like. And that's okay. And what I do is when something is happening and I'm uncomfortable with what my husband is doing as a parent, I take a step back for a second and I'm like, okay, what's mine? Am I uncomfortable because it scares me? Am I uncomfortable because I'm being triggered? Am I uncomfortable because I think I need to protect my kids from him? What's my discomfort level? And this is all happening pretty rapid. It's like, okay, is this mine? And then I also watch my child. Like, what's going on with my child? Because sometimes I will project that it's hurting them and my kids are totally fine. Or I'll project that it's a really bad thing to say to a child and my kids are so not taking it personally and it's not hurting them and they don't care. And then there's that place like where you have a bad day. My husband has a terrible day, or I have a terrible day, and you're off and you're nasty and you're in a really bad mood and you bite into one of the kids. And that's where my husband or I will step in and say, I don't say anything. I look at him and I said, hey honey, hi. What's going on? What do you need right now? Because this is really sharp. That's where I will step in, but I don't tell him his parent. He needs to change his parenting or move who he is. So that's the first piece. The second piece is constantly, intentionally be on the lookout for what they're doing that is right, what they're doing that is beautiful, what they're doing that is contributory, what they're doing that you can't do. Like there's things my husband as a parent does that just, they're not part of my makeup. Like, so I look at what an amazing father he is. And that is where my intention and my focus goes in. And it, crazy, right? Where your focus is, that's what starts to grow in your life. And so the more you can look at your partner and be like, they're doing this right. This is amazing when they do that. I love this when that happens. This is great when he's spending time with them. Oh, he's instructing them. There's things that my husband has done with my children where I'm like, oh my God, they're going to be like traumatized forever. And actually it grew them in a way I could never have imagined. And so I've learned to really step back and trust the relationship that he is creating with my children. And it's not about me. I don't have to fight with him about who he is or who he's being with them. It's about his relationship to my kids, not his and mine. Often as parents, we think, oh, we have to be on the same page. No, you don't. It's his relationship with my children, and then there's my relationship with my children, and there's all the culture that flows around that. He and I do not have to agree on the way that we parent. We have to, so for example, my husband tends to be much more clear, concise, direct, and like strong lines of what's going on. And so he'll make agreements with the kids that I'm just like picking my nose. It's not interesting to me, right? But what is in my soul, what I love is I really believe in agreements. Like agreements are really cool things. And so the kids and him, and usually it's like around schoolwork and what homework they need to do, and do they need to study this, and they need to be home at this time, and they need to finish their work by that time. And these are all things that like, just, they're not me at all. I'm just like, whatever. I trust the universe in that stuff, and I'm not concerned about their grades, and I don't really care. I support them fully, but I'm just not the one that creates the structure for them because it's not my nature to do so. So, and I tried to be that. I tried to be that controlling, let's get this all, and I'm going to be the best, mom. It doesn't work for me. So that's my husband's role, and it's what they do together. And so they'll make an agreement. I'll be informed of the agreement. And my part of that is just to remind them, hey, it's 3:00. You agreed with Daddy that you would do this and that. Because my husband works 12 to 15 hours a day. So I'm like the agreement container. I just remind them, this was an agreement that you made, and that's what I do. I don't always agree with the agreements. I'm like, why would you agree to that? But I hold the space because the kids and my husband made that agreement willingly, openly, together in respect. So I'm not there to interfere at all. I'm there just to hold the space for that. And then it says, and then the second part of this was without allowing it to affect your sex life. Anything, any place where you think your partner's wrong, or you think your partner needs to fix themselves, or you're believing that they're not a good parent, is going to completely obliterate any desire that you have for them. It's going to kill your mojo, right? So it's more about understanding that we're all, this is the other thing. Many of us have never been parents before we're parents, and there's no handbook of parenting, and there's no parenting classes. I'm going to do some courses soon, but there's still like, it will be the handbook of all handbooks, but it's still not, none of us have been parents. None of us are experts at this. We are all groping in the dark as parents, trying to figure out who we are as a parent. Who are we in relationship to each individual child? Who are we in relationship to the group? For me, 4 kids. How am I in relationship to each child, and how am I in relationship to the group that they are? And we're all learning. And when you find yourself like looking down on somebody's parenting, that's always going to be you disconnecting from them and not realizing, hey, they're learning too. They're doing this for the first time as well, and they're probably repeating ancestral patterns for sure. We all are, if we are looking at it, and even when we are looking at it and doing the deep, heavy lifting inner work for it, it's still going to pop out. And to have like some deep understanding for not only your partner, hi Katie, but yourself. Hi Jessica, yourself. Like understanding for yourself that like, oh, I'm not always going to get this right, and I'm not always going to be the best parent, and that extends to my partner. Like he's not always going to have good days. He's not always going to have great patterns. He's not always going to have his shit together. And it's about, for me, it's about being I want to be connected to my husband above my judgments, below, around, whatever. Like I can have judgments, I can get mad, and I move through that. And I realized the biggest thing that helped me with my husband is, hi Nita. Oh, it's my pleasure. Hi Susan. And with my husband, and I was judgy and I was controlling and all that really was the biggest piece. Was I began to look with different eyes. I began to see where he was a great dad. I began to see that he had different ideas that kind of bugged me, but when I stepped out and I watched, the unfolding of it, I just was awed at like, holy crap, he knows what he's doing. Like I would never have thought that would be the outcome in the relationship with his kids. And it is the outcome, and there's deep trust, and there's deep love. And that's what I'm looking for. I prefer to look for the outcome. Oh, they have a good relationship. There's a loving trust. There's honor going on there. That changed everything because I stopped making my husband, as a parent, an enemy to me. And anytime I make my husband an enemy to me, that's going to cause me not to want to have sex and not to want to make love. Anytime that I'm not feeling emotionally good, right? This doesn't mean we're not having hard conversations about, hey, I really don't think that this is, who was that? Okay, a client. Had this thing where her husband wanted to get their son, the son wanted, he's about 12, wanted to get into a training program. He wanted to lose weight. He wanted to get stronger. He wanted to have a nice physique and all these things. And the father wanted to start like doing, taking notes, and like weighing yourself every day. What do you call it? Data collecting, what are you eating? Like being very like, detail oriented. And her whole inside went, whoa, fuck no, this is not okay for me. This does not sound good. I don't like it. And that's when you step into it and you say, look, I understand you want to do that. I'm not okay with it. So now we start to navigate. Now we start to talk about, this isn't okay for me. I'm not on board with this. I can't stand behind you for this. We have to talk about this because this doesn't work for me. And you go from there. And it's always, I don't hide anything from my kids. I have all these conversations with my children present. I don't believe in the whole thing, oh, you need to not talk about those things in front of the kids. Like, your kids shouldn't see you disagreeing. Yes, they should. Disagreement is a part of life. Disagreement does not mean I hate you. Disagreement does not mean everything's over. Disagreement does not mean I'm a bad parent or you're a bad parent. It means we have very different ideas, and we need to learn through the disagreement how to come to a place that we can both feel okay with. How to come to that place of like, This has to feel good for me in order to back you up in it, because I want to back him up as my partner and as my co-parent. And the part about sex life is that if we get too deep into judging and too deep into, and also not speaking our truth for what we need in that moment, then we're not going to want to be together. Hi, Trinity. Hi, Susan. Okay, I think I covered that. And again, I'm just going to go down the stuff that I already have, but if any of you here have anything that you would really like to be seen talked about in the arena of parenting, please let me know in the comments. We're a small group today. I'm just glad you're here. Sorry, I'm trying to get there. How to parent parents. I'll come right back just a second. I just want to pick the next question. There was one that had, like, people were saying, yeah, that too. So there was that. Okay, so let me come over here real quick. I just got done reading my story. Mom won't be in my life for what? Just stated she won't try to find a common ground. How to parent parents. Okay, so part of reparenting ourselves is, in a sense, reparenting our parents. This does not mean you're responsible for their growth or anything like that, but and it's really important to honor if you're in the family relations and you need to take space away from the parental units in order to find where you stand in yourself. I took 6 months. Like, I totally support and advocate looking that you make sure you do what you need to do. What happened for me was I was the parent in the whole relationship of the family, and what I did was I just stepped back into I'm a daughter. I'm a daughter. I'm not a parent. I'm not. That's not my job. In that, with my mother and my father. Now, in my natural, if I had grown naturally and I've reparented myself, so in my relationship to both my father and my mother, I'm the daughter. I'm no longer take any role whatsoever of being the parent or the one knowing things or the one taking the responsibility for all the crap going down. No, I'm the daughter. And that is a lot of freedom right there. Like, I don't have to do anything. And being the daughter means that I get to express myself. I get to talk about my feelings. I get to say what I need to say. And I don't expect anything from my parents at all. Nothing. And that was for me. I took a step back and did the parenting for myself, to myself, with myself, as myself, that I needed in order to be able to stand up and be like, you know, my parents really did do the best that they could with what they knew. They didn't know what I know. They didn't have a clue about what I'm talking about. I can't blame, shame, and guilt my parents without simultaneously blame, shame, and guilting me and every parent on the planet. I can't. Does that mean that they're not responsible for any shitty behavior? No. But it means that I don't hold them in purgatory forever. They are not the same people they were when I was a child. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. How could my parents possibly be the same people today that they were 20 years ago or more? So it's not necessarily about reparenting. It's about yourself. When you reparent yourself and you grow yourself up internally with yourself, you heal lineages, like in both directions, up, down, backwards, sideways, past, future, present, all of it. To expect that our parents would know how to do that is not helpful. That's what I have on that. It's not as a child. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 3, 13, 33, 55, whatever. It's never your job, ever, to be the parent or to parent the parent. Ever. That's that paradigm, that dichotomy has gotten a lot of people in a space of not trusting themselves, in a space of feeling burdened or a burden in life. So it's about bringing the dynamic and the energetic of a family. If you're a child with your parents, be a child. And I don't mean child like, I just mean be the daughter. Don't try to be the parent. It will relieve the situation in so many ways I can't even tell you. And if you need to get away from them, then get away from them. I'm just reading what she wrote. Hi, Stacy. First off, I don't really know what to say to all of that, Trinity. It's a big theme, and I'd like to keep going with what their here is. But what I will say to this about they just won't let me have my beliefs. This goes along for me around the theme of boundaries. Is I'm allowed to have whatever belief I want. I need no one to agree with me. And I'm not a jerk about it. I don't need to push. You must believe me, and you must leave me alone, and you have to know my beliefs. I have no boundaries. I'm like out and right? No. This is what I believe. This is who I am. I love you, and I appreciate you in my life, or I don't. Like, I wouldn't say that if I don't mean it. And I don't need to talk about my beliefs with them. And I don't defend myself. I have nothing to defend. And I don't attack them for not accepting my beliefs. In that attack, I'm not accepting their beliefs. I'm allowed to believe what I believe. They're allowed to believe what they believe, and there's really nothing going on that's wrong in either belief system at all. Those belief systems are okay. My belief systems are okay. They might not be the same belief systems, but they're both valid, and they're both completely allowed. So, trust yourself, mostly. Trust yourself completely. Sometimes that's hard, but that's really where I would go with that. Okay. So when I asked this question, as a human being in the conversation around parenting, what would support you the most to speak about? And one person wrote, and it was seconded, right? The first part, I'll go to the first part, and I'll go to the second. Yeah, this is really good. Ooh, this is really good. Okay. So the first one is, I'm struggling right now with my kids. I want to honor that struggle, right? That struggle means that there's something going on, and I haven't told you what it is, but the struggle, I'm struggling with my kids, means that there's the opportunity. What's happening is I want to shift something in myself. I'm struggling with how, right? It's never the kids that we're struggling with. I'm struggling with how I'm navigating my parenting. My two little ones just started swearing. We'll address this first. So my two little ones just started swearing. And this is an opportunity to talk about congruency and talk about belief systems, talk about where what your boundaries around cursing are, right? So I curse a lot. I'm going to raise my hand. Anybody else here? Like, I curse a lot. It just happens to come out of my mouth, and I don't censor myself, and I've never seen the way that I use those words. I don't use them towards somebody. I don't use them when I'm talking to anyone. They're never meant to harm, right? I really like cursing. It's a part of my embellishing of my language and all these things. But when it comes to kids, when it comes to my kids, all my kids cuss. They all curse, every single one of them. Appropriately, by the way. It's not like just like they're running around yelling fuck or whatever. They, stub their toe and they're like, oh, fuck. Or they get upset about something. One's right now on a Jesus kick. All she says all the time is, Jesus! And we're like, okay. And like, there's points where like they're really pushing a boundary. Like, okay, now that's kind of ridiculous. How does that fit into the conversation? But I don't tell them not to curse. I have no problem. I have no problem if they curse in public. I have no, but they know, my kids know. I said, some people don't like cursing. Some people really don't like it, and they will reject your expression of it. They might even reject you for it, but you have to be okay with yourself. So we've had that conversation. If you're having a problem with children cursing, you yourself must cease to ever curse again. Like, ever. Ever, ever. See, there's this thing in parenting that is evident more than in any other relationship, and that's congruency. If you're not congruent, so if you curse, even if you're hiding, you're cursing, shit, or whatever it is, if you curse and you're telling your child not to curse, they feel the incongruency of that immediately. Immediately. They're like, but what? Wait, well, why are they allowed? We even had a child come visit, and Quinn said damn or something, or shit. And the kid was like, why is Quinn allowed to curse? And I'm like, well, because here in this house, I curse, so I can't tell him not to curse. Yeah, but my mom says. I'm like, oh man, this is not my kid. Like, I've got to respect, there's boundaries here I have to respect. But I was just telling him, like, I get it in your house and by your parents, and that's a boundary for you guys. Like, you're not allowed to curse, but over here in our house. And this kid was like, what? Like, how is it not the same in every house? And so then when his mom came, I explained the conversation. I said, this is the conversation I just had with your son. I want you to be, and just to let her be aware of it. They wound up playing lots of times. And the kid didn't wind up being a cursing, horrible kid after that. But it was just always it was a really interesting thing. So the only time that you can ask a kid not to do something, whatever it is, this time it's cursing, is if you're absolutely 100% in congruency with it. And not like, I'm allowed to curse, you're not. That's not going to work. That's going to create so much rigidity and so much friction with your children, because they're going to know that you're full of crap. That you're telling them one thing and you're doing another, and it totally confuses them. It messes with their worldview. It messes with their understanding of life. That it doesn't make sense. I can do it because I'm an adult. A kid does not understand that. They're like, huh? What? This is not a concept that a child understands. So if you have an issue with cursing, first explore your own stories around cursing. Is it about your own personal preference? Like, I don't like cursing. Is it about external society pressure that cursing is bad and wrong and not intelligent? Is it that you are more concerned about what other people will think if you allow your kids to curse? Is it that you don't want to have the conversation about it? What is it? Like, if you can find that place inside of you that's very clear, like if it's really clear, like, no, I really, really, cursing is not for me. And that's like a true, genuine, honest boundary. Then you can go into the conversation about why it bothers you and why these words aren't working for you and why you don't want those words being used. From an honest place, not a manipulative place, but from like, I don't like it and it makes me uncomfortable or whatever. Then you have that honest conversation with them. But it's not out of congruency. If it's out of congruency, that's always, you're going to butt heads. That's kind of a fact. But so, and then another thing was, and since my older two started school, I am feeling disconnected from them. This came up a lot. So it wasn't just another person said, yeah, my kids, once now all four of my kids are in school, so I feel really, and they become different people, and they're spending further time away from me. And another one said, yeah, I want to remain connected to my teenagers, right? Because as soon as the kids leave home, and they're spending more of their time, if you're in the traditional system, they're spending more of their time at school than they are at home. There's like a bitter sweetness to that, right? There's like the sadness of not being the one that gets to see them all the time and knows every single little cough and hiccup. There's that bittersweetness, and that there's a sweetness to that too, and that they're going out into the world, and there's nothing we can do about that unless you're going to go live off grid in a hut in the woods where you are completely inaccessible. There's no way. Even if you're homeschooling and unschooling, your kids are going to come into connection with society in some way or the other, and they're going to start spending more time away from you than they are with you, and this is normal. And it's about like making sure that the times that you are connected in the morning before they go to school, for here in Switzerland, my kids come home for lunch, at night when they come home, in the afternoon when they come home and they're home, before they go to bed, at the dinner table. When you start to create points of connection and really deeply intimate points of connection in the minimal time that you have on the weekends, when you have time with them, that you become fully present to them. And really, this is a weird word, but really appreciate the time you have now. And that bittersweetness helps that appreciation, right? It's just like, okay. And as it's natural for teenagers to pull away, right? It's natural. They're trying to find their own identity as a sovereign, separate person to you. It's not normal for them to remain away, like completely not communicating with you. Then there's something up. And it's just like, also just being with yourself, like, oh, the time flies really fast. They walk, they come out of us and they walk out of our lives faster than we can blink. And so I gobble my kids up whenever I have the chance. I just gobble their presence up. Even like angry with my daughter, I was typing to somebody, yeah, me and my daughter are in one of those places. It's hilarious. I just wrote this thing about it, and we're in a fit. and I'm sitting on my computer like this, and she's over there, and I can see her on the couch, and I'm still irritated, and she's still mad, but yet there's something in me that's just like gobbling up her essence being there. And so, really about connecting deeply when you can, in the spaces in between. They're the most important spaces. Most important spaces. And we have built this in, so let me just, into our family in many different ways. We eat dinner at the table every night. We have Sunday morning breakfasts, very special breakfasts. We, when we're in the car, or we go to a restaurant, or we go on vacation, everybody turns off their phones. We're not on media. Same thing with anytime we're spending together as a family, we're not spending on. So it becomes quality. My husband is home maybe an hour and a half at night before they go to bed, and that time is like magic time. That time is sacred time. That time is like, you feel the connection in our house, and that's like magic hour. So just impactfully bringing in the quality in that moment. And it's really interesting. I have a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And that dinner table it's just magic. So, but you start to put in little rituals that help you. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Ida, if you're still here, I know you asked. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings with kids and gender identity with kids. I say confusion because the journey I have had with my child, now an adult, was manifesting as confusion, society pressures to conform, shaming difference, body dysmorphia, hatred. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, I'm just gonna... Gender identity is something that if we as parents and adults really stepped back and as good as we can, because we're all seeped in beliefs about male, female. We're seeped in it. There's nothing we can do. We breastfeed, we take it in with breast milk. So, I don't think people get all freaked out when kids get confused about their gender. And when it's a normal thing. It takes them even a while to recognize I'm a boy or I'm a girl. And what the fuck does that mean? I have a penis, I have a vagina? Is that it? Is that all? That's the only difference? Right? But they're given the same kind of conditioning that we are. So, yeah, it was manifesting as confusion. Right. So, sort of on topic, I was anorexic for a long time and all these things. And these are the points when a child is struggling with anything, whether it's gender identity or anything at all. When they're struggling, it's time to get present as a parent. And sometimes when they struggle with things like gender or drugs or not belonging or being bullied, we project our own fears and experiences onto them instead of getting really present and really curious. And it's like giving them their turn by giving them your full presence. Now, anything in the past isn't worth feeling guilty about. I'm going to say that again. Anything that has happened in the past between you and your children isn't worth feeling guilty about. Guilt will perpetuate the problem. It won't allow you to connect because you will feel so bad about something, right? What it is that thing happened. I did it this way. Now I'm going to do different. Super important. That's a hard one for me because I haven't experienced it in my children. I like to reference to myself, and I'm going to make up a story because it's never happened to me. So this is what I'm feeling into. If this was one of my children, for me, it depends on the age. I would fully support their decision. I would not begin any kind of hormone treatment until they are fully grown, until their entire endocrine system is fully and completely online. Until all their hormones and stuff have their natural ones that are in their body have completely balanced out. But I support them in any other way. I would support them in their outward expression of it. I would support them in their experimentation with it. I would support them in all of that, but I would not introduce any kind of medical treatment until their bodies were fully developed. And I would talk to them about why. I would tell them. I would discuss it with them about it. I also wouldn't go in another direction and be like, treat them overtly opposite to their gender. Like, I treat my kids like my kids, like whoever they are. And if when my son puts on makeup and wears a dress, I'm like, hey, that's awesome. You did a really good job. I think it's like we forget as parents. This is what I believe is my job as a parent, is to love my kids. Even when I don't like them. I don't like my kids sometimes. I own that, but I love my kids. And so my job is not to teach them anything. My job is not to protect them from anything. My job is to be a stand for like fierce, unconditional love. It says, I'm here for you no matter what. I've got your back. I'm not going to turn my back on you. Not ever. And that's powerful. And we think we're here to teach them and be experts and be the ones who know everything. When I don't know about you, but I don't know shit. like I woke up today and I have 4 kids, but I've never been their mom today. Today's the first day I've been the mom of these kids as they woke up this morning. Today's the first time I've been this version of myself. And so the more I am human and equal to them, but also there's a lot of clarity here. My kids are incredibly respectful and open and kind to other people. But that's the outcome, right? I think this one still comes with guilt. It's like there's this guilt, this parent guilt that we have. Again, it's another one of those that we swallowed, with the bottle or with the breast milk of feeling guilty for our behavior or something we've done that we didn't like. Doing the behavior is actually what taught us, oh, I don't want to be that parent. I don't want to do that. And so we can really just be grateful for it instead. But we will use guilt to try to be a better parent. But what guilt does is keeps us from being the parent that we already are, the beautiful parent that we already are. Guilt keeps us from seeing that we're an awesome parent. It's also, I've seen parents use guilt as a badge. Well, I did cut all his hair without asking him, but I feel bad about it, so it's okay now. That's a protective mechanism. That's where guilt comes in and tries to protect instead of be like, wow, that fucking hurt. I don't know why I did that. Like, dang. And really look at the emotional collateral of a behavior. So that one. If anybody else here has any questions, I'm going to go and find another one. And that was about being a control freak as a parent. Like, I really, I resonate with this. And she says, and control is something I'm learning I really don't need, but I would still like to have a strong positive influence. And that goes with like what I just said about like, my job is to love my kids. My job is to create a space where they can grow. But my job is also not to just like be all willy-nilly. My job is to be very clear. My husband does that much better. Like, that's the wrong way to say it. He does it differently than I do. I was listening to a podcast, and someone said, we have a policy in our house, don't be a dick. And I think that was like that's it. That's exactly what, just don't be a jerk. That's really the main guidelines, boundaries that we hold, and the ability to understand where other people are coming from. And that none of your feelings are ever bad or wrong. Wait, no, it's not working. Here we go. That's kind of goes to another one somebody said was the exhausting and hopeless conflict of trying to be the perfect parent and constantly failing. That goes along with the guilt, right? You can only fail at something that you believe you need to succeed perfectly at. Like, some days, and this is the truth, some days, success as a parent is that nobody died. Everybody's still alive at the end of the day. Everybody's still here. Everybody's safe. Like, some days success in parenting is not beating yourself up about anything. Some days success in parenting is giving your kids cereal for breakfast, or for dinner, or pancakes, or giving them a box of popcorn, or feeding them Twinkies. Some days that's a win in parenting. Some days in parenting, a success is putting the kids in front of the TV the whole day so that you can just move through what you need to move through. Sometimes success in parenting is taking a break from it. Short one, long one, whatever you need. Sometimes success in parenting is letting it all go. Like, we have all these ingrained ideas about who and what we're supposed to be as a parent, and all of them are bullshit. The only parent that you are supposed to be is the person that you are in relationship to your child. You don't have to be your parents. You don't have to be anybody else's kind of parent. Just being you. And not spewing your pain and ideologies and belief systems on your kids, right? So, what do I mean by that? I mean, like, you're going to be triggered as a person, as a human. That's part of our thing here. But like, owning your own triggers before you pass them on. That's really what it is. That I think is the only job as a parent. And my ideas, I don't know if they're visions yet. I don't see it. It's a feeling thing that I have about shifting the parenting narrative is, in 2 or 3 generations, we could have people coming out, growing. See, what's happening for me, and maybe many of you, is I have to reparent myself now. You know, since I'm not a kid anymore, and yet there's still aspects of me that didn't get to grow up in the way that I needed to develop, that naturally developed because it was shamed, it was pushed down, it wasn't respected, it wasn't honored, it wasn't given place. So that part of me like shut down and got stuck at that age, so it didn't grow up. So I'm reparenting myself. Imagine generations of people who don't have to do that because their parents, me, have already done it. And that's where I often say it stops with me. It stops with me. I'm no longer passing this on. I'm going to meet my demons and my belief systems and all this crap. I'm going to meet that first before I give it to my child. And if I give it to my child, I'm going to walk it out and talk to them about it and be open and honest about being human. That's my vision, if you will. This is why I'm bringing this conversation to the forefront. It's why I'm going to be teaching about it in 2018. This is the why. This is what I want to see. I see it with my kids. I see the possibility of what it is when when a child comes into being an adult and they're whole. They're still intact. They're aware of their wholeness and their intactness, and they know what their boundaries are, and they honor and respect themselves, and in turn, they honor and respect others. They are motivated in the world to do whatever it is they're doing in the world. They don't question themselves when it's a no. They take time when they're not sure. They're not in a hurry. Yeah, it's awesome. With an awesome 19-year-old who lives at home and is at that launch to adulthood, I sometimes don't know the line between inserting myself or backing up. How to be clear on that for any given issue that comes up. Cool. Ask him. Hey, I would really like to interject here. Are you open to some feedback? Right? Or when I did something similar, so I'll share, when I did something similar, this is what the outcome. Doesn't mean it's going to be your outcome, but I just want to share that this is what happened to me, and maybe I'm just afraid for you, but maybe there's a little bit of wisdom in there. So it's about, and it's really just ask him, how much can I come into your space? And not just that, remember that the relationship between you and your 19-year-old is also a relationship that you are in. You have needs. You have desires of how the relationship works. You have things like connectedness, I want to say issues, it's not the connectedness, desires, and needs in that relationship too. Never ever forget that. This is a two-way path. When he comes to 19, the parent now, right? It's sometimes it happens earlier or later depending on the kid, but it's like the parent has to step back, but the relationship has to stay like really tight because he's going to need you forever in the emotional support way. I mean, I have that even with my 17-year-old here in Switzerland. He's in the adult world right now. He's in his apprenticeship. He's having, he's getting paid. He's learning. He's leaving the house every day. He's doing like all the adult stuff, right? And now he's 17 and he's still in school on the side of that. But it's like, where do I interject? Where do I hold? It's really more for me about holding mad, fierce space for him to just do all the things he needs to do. He should go, I'm dominant! Like, he has to do this at least like once or twice a week. And we're like, okay. All that stuff, and still like I trust you, I believe in you, and where can I support you? And same thing happened with my daughter. There would be like something that just doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel respectful. It doesn't feel caring. And I just say, hey, that doesn't feel very caring. That hurts me. Like, that's important. That's important feedback to anybody we're in a relationship with, including our children. This kind of goes along with someone says, I wish to stay. Keeping connections as the teen years or adult years have them naturally pulling away. And it's important to know, they disengage, they pull away, but they don't really, because they still really, really, really need you. Like, really need you. Their pull away is also like a test. Are you going to stick around? Or are you going to turn your back on me? Right? This is important to know. To give them space, or at least the illusion of it, right? Like, yeah, okay, you got that. But always bringing them back into the fold, right? And that's just really interesting. So I wish to stay engaged and connected without smothering or hovering. And so the job at teenagehood is really, really to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing for yourself, so that you're feeling whole and complete and you're coming from overflow and not irritation, is staying engaged with, and not smothering. So at this point, affection is child driven. So anytime, and I mean anytime your kid comes to you, your teenager comes to you for a hug or to be close, then that's where you open your arms. It stops being parent-led affection and it becomes child-led affection. And not that it is parent-led before that. Usually before like 11, it's a very mutual thing, right? Because they're small, they can fit on your lap. And around 12, 13, depending on the child, they start to kind of distance themselves physically because it's not the cuddling that they don't want. It's just, it has to shift form. So my arms are wide open for when my kids come, and I will kiss them goodnight, and I will kiss them in the morning. And when they come to give me a hug, I really bring it in and I offer it all the time. So it's not about smothering them. Being engaged means I'm present to what my child needs. And I also teach my kids to tell me what they need. I ask them, do you need more cuddles? Do you need a hug? Do you want to sit down and have a tea together? Like, so bringing them into that. There's also the part about, like, it is like this dichotomy, like, do I overpower them and tell them they have to do things, or do I invite them into things? And the answer is really both. It's not overpowering them, but like, you have to come to the dinner, or this is a requirement, not for you to be punished, but it's a requirement for our relationship, right? Like, I do not tolerate in my relationships disrespect and being treated like shit. I just don't. And so that goes with my kids too. And if we start to go with this and it gets really ugly, I'm like, no, I do not accept this in our relationship. This is not okay for me in our relationship. We need to find a way that you can be angry at me. Oh, hell yeah. You can hate me. You can think I'm a pile of crap. You can think I'm stupid. Of course you can. But how you treated me just now is a big no for me. Right? And so that's where the conversation is. Still, there's clarity, there's fierceness, but there's an allowance for what's happening. Oh my goodness. Okay. There's a few here that are about holding the energy of love and respect for both myself and my children so that we can live in a place of harmony, peace, and balance. We live in a place of, the thing is, disagreements, arguments, fighting, not getting along, not liking each other, slamming doors, all those kinds of things. It's normal. We have been taught to be horribly afraid of these things and not ever do them. And so it's always kind of done in secret or in snide or in back weird ways instead of just like, I'm disagreeing with you right now. I had that disagreement with my daughter. We're disagreeing right now. It's really not the end of the world because the foundation of the relationship is strong. Because we're all highly aware that we're going to disagree. We're not always going to like each other. We're not always going to be in like this peace, harmony, love place. We're going to be in this, I hate you, I don't want to look at you, you make me mad. That's going to happen. It's natural. It's normal. It's a part of our expression. It's a part of how we learn to interact. It's a part of how we learn who we are. It's important. Being uncomfortable in relationships is super important. And the discomfort allows us to say, am I going to stay or am I going to go? Right? And sometimes the kids will push into that if they're not feeling loved, if they're not feeling held, if they're feeling ignored, if they need a little bit of extra attention, who cares why? They might push into the discomfort. And if you're present, it's like, oh, this isn't a behavioral problem. My child needs something. The behavior is just a symptom, right? The behavior is just a symptom. There were two things here about let's talk about not wanting to have kids or not having kids till you're ready, or how older generations will shame younger generations and tell them they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing. About not having kids till you're ready. This is a theme that's coming up for younger generations than mine, right? They're aware, like, hey, I don't have to have kids for any reason. I don't have to just have kids to give a grandchild. I don't have to have kids because that's what you do. I don't have to just follow along and get married and have kids and have like the secular lifestyle. Like, kids are just recognizing that these days. I'm saying kids, but I mean young adults. But also kids, like, I don't have to be forced into having children until I feel personally myself that I'm ready to have children. There was one note here that I wanted to really address. I want to thank all of you who are still here for being here. This is about to get a bit controversial, I think, and so I'm actually like super grateful that we're a small group because that's how I feel about this next topic. Like, I don't know how it's going to sit with some people, and I don't care because I have to speak my truth. This is my truth. This is how I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. Oh my goodness. Okay. Be the thing that disconnects a parent from a child. So the topic is teach children as young as possible that they get the results of their thinking and their thoughts. And he said that will make their life so much easier. And a lot of people agreed, yes, this is a great point. And I'm a big no to this. Huge. My whole being just goes, no. And it's fierce about it. No. Oftentimes I've had people come to me and been like, I've learned all this stuff about law of attraction, and I'm trying to talk to my 12, 13, 15-year-old about it, and they're not listening, and I keep telling them that they need to like change their thinking, and it's really that simple, and they need to know about this stuff, and I'm like, stop. Let me give you a couple of reasons why, what my space in it is. Those of us who have been through experiences and we've been fractured, I call it fractured, or we've been traumatized, or we've been hurt in our childhood, where we didn't grow, so we were stunted in a certain way. As adults, we need self-help. We need to go back and pick up our pieces. We need to grow ourselves up. We need to heal those parts that hurt, right? We need that. It's part of our evolutionary process. All we came here to do was grow up. So, we're having to do it as adults. And sorry, get out of the way. My question. So what we do is we get into self-help, we realize, oh my God, it's my thinking, or oh my God, it's this, oh my God, it's that. And automatically, immediately, I've got to tell my kid about it. I've got to fix this in my kid. My kids need to understand this. Tell a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, you're going to get the results of your thoughts. So cognitively, why this doesn't work. Before the age of 7, Children are not in the thinking process like you and I are in the thinking process. The cognitive voice, the voice that starts to like talk shit to you and is mean to you, eventually, that's what it usually will. It's the collective whatever, because it comes online at about between 6 and 8. By 8 years old, most people's voice in their head that isn't their own comes online. So a child before that does not even understand thinking at all, because they're pure experience. Their thoughts, if they're thinking, they're not thinking. It's a complete total experience. They're in that space where thought is not even on the radar. So for those kids, they don't need this. And so if you try to talk to them about it, either they're going to be way smarter than you about how life works, right? Like way beyond you and your thinking little understandings, or you're going to alienate them from you. If probably the children that would be most open to even an idea of it would be between 11 and 13, but I don't recommend it. I recommend instead loving your child, nourishing your child, nurturing what they're interested in, telling them how great they are, giving them opportunities to do the things that they really love and care about, supporting them, letting them know you have their back, allowing them to feel what they feel, allowing them to express what they express, allowing them to think what they think, even when it's weird. I mean, my son went through like times where he's like, I think I'm going to be a Satanist. I was like, well, okay, tell me more. What are you looking up? Or have you been reading anything about it? Like, tell me, I'm super interested. So I get interested in the subjects that he's interested in, even though I'm like, what? That's some weird shit. But okay, if that's what you're looking at and that's what you're interested in, tell me everything. And then he opens up and he's telling me all these things. And in the telling and in the opening up and in the exploratory thing, he's like, oh yeah, maybe not. Like, I never told him that's wrong, that's a bad thing to do or whatever. So they need to come to that process. Oftentimes as adults, we find something that works for us, for our healing, and we immediately try to slather it onto a child. Children don't need it if they're intact. Children don't need to know about spirituality or any of that. They're deeply fucking connected. They're so deeply connected already that if you start telling them about this thinking stuff, it will mess them up. And so what I see most often is parents with kids 12 to 15, 16 years old, and they're like, my kid's behavior is really bad, and I keep trying to tell him to change his thinking. I'm like, no, this is what's happening at that age. At that age, they're getting this huge influx of hormones. Their body is changing physically, but they are having this otherworldly, crazy, whacked out, confusing, awkward as fuck experience of hormones and emotion, and the emotional body comes into like this vibrant. It's just, right? It is consuming them, literally consuming them. And then we're telling them they need to control their reality. They need to stop feeling how they feel. They need to stop feeling like, and it can cause you to go into like a hermit place, a withdrawn place of like, Jesus, they're trying to figure out what's happening. They're trying to organize this chaos that is all of a sudden taken over their life. Whoa, right? Another thing we do, our child turns 15. We come face to face with our own 15-year-old. We think our child is going to do the same things we did. They're going to have the same pains. They're going to make the same decisions. They're going to have the same issues. And so we start to treat our child from the fear of our own experience, instead of being wide open, awake, and looking at them and what is their experience? What are they going through? Let me get curious about that. You don't get what the results of your thinking are. You get the results of what you're being. And if the deepest truth was that you get what you think, you get the results of your thoughts, I would be dead a million times over. I would be horrible. The whole world would be annihilated. Here's the other thing. If you are not living at 100%, and I mean 100, I mean 1,000%, whether it's your spirituality, your dogma, your law of attraction, whatever it is, if you are not living it to the perfectness, like if you're not masterful, not perfect, but masterful in it, you need to not say a word to your child or anyone else about it. But your child will pick up, they will smell a rat in a second. Oh, you're just trying to band-aid me. You're just trying to make me shut up. You just don't want me to make you uncomfortable. They will smell it in a second. So if you're going to have those kinds of conversations with your kids, make sure it's genuine, make sure you're living it yourself. Congruency, it comes back to that. If you're all wishy-washy all over the place and you're not actually living what you're telling them, there's no congruency and they won't trust you. And that's what we want. We want to trust each other. We want to trust our parents. So, and the other thing that I tell people all the time, when your child is whatever age they are, they're 3, they're 5, they're 6. Now, my husband has this way less. He's much more intact of a human being than I was as an adult. This is how I know. When you come into an adulthood intact, meaning fully complete, knowing you're whole, knowing who you are, knowing your boundaries, having a really deep sense of yourself, the innate idea that there is me here, it's my turn, I'm alive, and really clear, then you don't pass shit on. But if you don't have that, for the myriad of reasons that we don't, every time your child reaches an age, you will be faced with your own self at that age, with all your triggers, with all your pain, with all your ideologies, with all of it. And that's super important to know as a parent, that being a parent means that I'm going to have to parent myself like a mofo. Because I'm going to be not only speaking to my 8-year-old son, I'm going to be speaking from and to my own 8-year-old self. And if my own 8-year-old self has any distortions, any parts that aren't intact, I'm going to have to, there's an opportunity to clean it. Like, not clean it, it's not like I'm dirty, but like to polish it, right? To polish it, to be like, let's get the crud off there, and there I am. There I am, all whole and happy 8-year-old. And now I can interact with my child as a whole and happy 8-year-old in a 41-year-old body, with a much more adult understanding of my 8-year-old. So now I have the understanding of my own 8-year-old, my child 8-year-old, and myself as a mother. It's threefold. I've had this temptation many times, especially when I read an enlightening book to me, because my child is older adult, says, "Mom, please stop with this shit so I know no more." I get excited wanting to let her know that I understand and I'm not perfect. And many have let her down, and here's how, that is my intention, but she has very good boundaries and I respect those ones. Yeah, we do get excited. Like when I have an epiphany, and I have so many, like every day, I don't know how to explain that to anybody, it's for me. It's for me. And I learned in my own journey, I only share when people ask. And I think really, Ida, for you, and for you specifically, this is about you, but it's of course universal, right? But for you, it's I sense. Do you just want her to know that you're really sorry? And you wish you could have done it different because you know differently now? And that constant need for her to forgive you is like rubbing places raw in the relationship, where the sense for me is she's already beyond that. She doesn't need to be constantly reminded that you feel bad about how you raised her. Instead, she just wants a relationship with you right now. And I think that's what you want too. So it's like, how can you let yourself off the hook for the parenting that you did do, which was the very fucking best you could do at that time, and that's a promise, so that you can be the parent you want to be now, regardless of how old she is. That you can meet her now, and she doesn't have to have the constant reminder that you feel guilty about her, because that's the message, right? About her. And so it's okay, Mom. It's okay. And you can love you, and you can love her, and that's where I would go. I'm glad. Thank you. And I just, it's like that idea of like, can I let myself just be me now? That was the mother that I was, and I bow to her. I bow to the mother whose child drew a picture of her as Medusa ripping her heart out of her chest. I bow to that woman. I bow to her. She was doing the best that she could. She didn't know what I know. No, she did not. She did not. It was 8 years ago. She did not know what I know now. She had inklings of it. She had ideas, but it wasn't embodied. It wasn't integrated. No way. And so I can just bow down to her. But I don't hold myself a victim or a martyr or hold myself in purgatory for it. I would never be where I am today if I helped myself to purgatory. For me, purgatory is in the recognizing of my behavior. It's so painful to see, like, oh my God, I was such a jerk. That's pain enough. I don't need to hold myself there so that I'm not a jerk ever again. That doesn't work. There's one more. It's another one about boundaries. Boundaries come up a lot when it comes to parenting and boundaries, period, are necessary, required things in all relationships, regardless of with who. Even there's boundaries in my relationship with myself. And boundaries are a sacred contract with yourself. They're not about other people. Like, somebody will say to me, well, they're not respecting my boundaries. I'm like, nope, it's not nobody else's responsibility to respect my boundaries. It's my responsibility to respect my boundaries and to stand in my boundaries, not up for my boundaries, to stand for my boundaries and be like, no, this is a no. This is a no. This is a no. And if I need to get you out of my life because my no is so clear, that's what I do. Okay, so he said, I wonder what your take on when a child enters phases that seem to express an unhealthy imbalances. That's some intense shit right there. Such as when their excitement is playing video games, and to take them somewhere like going outside or on a hike, etc., is literally the opposite of what they want to do. That kind of thing. And this is really good because he answers the question himself. But what I have so far is mostly a sense of giving them tons of love while trusting their higher self regarding the thing they're doing. Well, just trusting them. Forget about their higher self. Really, really forget about your child's higher self, because when children are children, they are their higher self. So are you and me. We've just confused it as adults. You do not have to talk to your child. Trust them 100%. What they're doing. In my case, I feel like I see the love and connection I give naturally adding some balance to the equation, like they are interested in stepping away from it to play with me or interact with me. Bingo, right on. My presence becomes more valuable to them than their video games. That's exactly what it is. So, for example, we live a very normal life here. Me and my kids and my husband in Switzerland. We have a house, we have a cat, we have a car, we have 4 kids. They go to a normal school system, and they all have devices. My 2 younger ones have iPads, my older 2 have their phones, and yet they still all put it down and come to dinner. They still, when we go on vacations, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they leave their phones here. They leave their electronics here. We take Casper's phone for all the great, cool, apps and shit you need when you go, or that you don't need, but that are like really nice to have when you're on vacation, but nobody's on their stuff. And they do that by their own. When we, anytime something happens to anybody in this house, any 6 of us, there's like an intensity and emotional rising, or somebody's going through like a crisis, everybody stops and comes to that center. It's just a natural thing. Everything gets put down and we come to that natural center. So you don't have to worry. If you are creating quality interactions with your children in the in-between, them wanting to be on a video game will become irrelevant, right? It will become just a part of life because they will want to be in my kids want to be in the relationship with us deeply. And it's really, really beautiful. Now, and you have to add to that too, that when my husband comes home from work, he doesn't feel like everybody gets off their stuff. So if I'm on the computer working, normally I've cooked dinner by this time, but like if the kids are on their phones, which they usually are when he comes home, immediately it's like phones out, phones off. And this is something that he puts, it's not a rule. It's not like, oh, whatever. He comes and he says, I come home from work. I don't get a lot of time with you guys. And it was really awesome if you could just get off your phones when I come home, because I really want to spend it with you 100%, with you guys being here and me being here. And that's his boundary in the relationship. In my relationship to you, I'd really appreciate that when we're spending time together, you're not on your stuff. It's very valid. And so it's not a rule, it's a request that is being honored and being heard. as not as you have to get off your devices, this is eating your brain. It's I love you, I want to spend time with you. And that's what's happening. Ida, thank you. Yeah, this is what I do. This is it. And it's going to change. It's all gonna I don't know what it's going to look like in 2018, but things will be changing. I'll still do lives. They'll probably be shorter, but this is what feeds me too. Yeah, Switzerland's an amazing place. Very amazing. I'm not a big gamer either. I refuse. Like I'm not into games at all. Mm-mm. Nope. And I'm also not like a big player, like playing, but that's okay. My husband's a huge player. There's so much tactile experience going on with my husband and all four of my kids that it's not like, and sometimes I join in, sometimes I don't, but they get that from him. It's just not my thing, and I don't think that I don't need to spend time with my kids doing that because I'm not interested in it, and I'm not gonna fake it, right? And so we'd have dinner tables and all of these things. So just be you. Just be you. But it's like the interaction with you becomes more interesting the more present you are to the interactions with your kids. That's exactly it. That you become more interesting than the entertainment because when you are with them. So it's not like turn off your phones and then we're not interacting with each other. It's not like turn off your phones, but I'm going to be on my phone, incongruent, right? It's not turn off your phones and clean the house, although that happens sometimes, but not. But it's turn off your phones and then we spend time together and we talk, and everybody talks about what has a part of that conversation. Like, it's beautiful. It's really, I'm so interested in my kids and what they're talking about and what they have to say and what they're experiencing, and they're talking to each other, and it's beautiful. Yeah, my kids are wanting to be in conversation. And my husband and I talk about interesting shit, like really interesting stuff. So, and it's not just, my 17-year-old said, I get why, because sometimes people come to visit. We had somebody live with us for a while. 3 times people have lived with us. And he said, I get why it can be really intense for people to live with us, because that's been some of the feedback we've gotten. And I said, why? And he said, because nobody talks about the stuff that we talk about. I said, how do you know that? He's like, okay, it's not my experience anywhere that anyone talks about what we talk about. And so these aren't, the conversations we have to me aren't intense at all. I don't want to be having, in fact, like, chit-chat's not my thing. I think you guys can figure that out. Like, I'm not into, like, just, and I can meet people anywhere, but I'm like, if it's just surface level, I won't hang around very long. It's just not interesting to me. To calm down, our space is so small and he's so imaginative, but we get overwhelmed with it. Okay. My 8-year-old does not have ADD or has no diagnosis or whatever, and he is 3 of my children are movement freaks. So am I, and have that energy, right? And so I don't know where you are, but for us it's the easiest to be like, go outside. Take that outside. Or just, hey, it's cool. You're over there, spitting your thing and doing your stuff and jumping all over the place, but can you tone it down a little bit? And it's not about telling them to shut up. It's not about telling them that they need to change whatever, but it's about telling them what your needs are. Like, my needs are right now, I need you to be quiet. And I've had a lot of those conversations with my kids. It's like, I need you to be quiet. And there's different things. You go outside, I go outside, I go to my room, I put in binaural beats, so that there's like an opening for everything. Go outside where we live. They won't run over. Just got ran over. Okay, so then the find ways. Go to the bathroom. Go to your room. I have all kinds of things that the kids can move on in the house, like including a trampoline, hanging rings. It could be simple things, but find that place. So what I do is I put on binaural beats, or I drown it out with or I turn on music, or I focus myself differently, or I really ask them, could you just be quiet for a little bit? And I will set like a timer, because 15 minutes to my 8-year-old is like eternity, and recognizing my needs while also honoring theirs. But sometimes it's just like I need quiet. That's me. That's my own needs as this individual sovereign human being. I require it to be quiet sometimes, and it's not all the time. But if you recognize that you're, hi Sharon, frustrated or angry, it's because you haven't been clear enough with yourself on what you need in that moment, or you're overly concerned about what he needs instead of looking at it depends. Trinity, I would have to know a lot more, but he tests us purposefully though. Then he needs something. If this is true, and I tend to take these kinds of comments and lean in the direction of, is he though, or is he just being a kid, right? Is it just, that's his way of being a kid? And there's always a reason. He's doing this for no reason. Maybe he's experimenting. Maybe he's exploring being a jerk. Maybe he's, right? It's like, we got to be really careful when we say they're doing it, he's testing me on purpose. Kids don't normally do that unless they need something. Sometimes they're just being a kid. And that's just what kids do, and it's totally normal behavior, and we're trying to, in our adult mind, order it. This must be it, or that must be it, or blah. No, maybe they're just being a kid. Yes, he's just being a kid. There's pain that comes up for me in this idea that he's doing this on purpose. If he's doing it on purpose, it is because he's needing or wanting something. He wants your presence. He wants you to be aware. Hey, mom, look at me, look at me, look at me. He's 6. He seems to always need something. I have one child that seems to always need something. She needs more, and when you give her more, it's like it's not enough. And that's just who she is. And so I give. And when I don't want to, I don't. But I don't, she's not doing this on purpose. This is who she is. She needs more. And what is more? Right? Define that. There was ideas about, she's a drama queen. And I was like, nope, this is who she is. And if she's acting out, if she's being a jerk, sometimes she'll be really nasty to her little brother, and I will go to her and be like, really, honey, what's going on? And what do you need? Because there's a need there, right? It's a need to be seen. If they're ratcheting up and their behavior's ratcheting up, it feels like it's in your face. That's because they need to be seen. They need to be acknowledged. They need presence. And yes, that might mean more presence than you're willing to give. But just be honest about it. I'm not willing to give the presence. It's not the kid's thing that they're doing. It's like, I just don't want to give the presence right now. Not a problem. But be honest with yourself instead of pushing the blame onto he's doing this on purpose. And he's 6. He's not doing this on purpose. He's 6. To be clear in your own boundaries for yourself. And by the way, we can't set boundaries for kids. Not possible. We set boundaries for ourselves, and we be really clear about them. And the kids follow. Right? We're all working on it, Trinity. We are a work in progress, as a parent, especially. It's all a work in progress. And so it's never about, we're not going to find perfection. We're not even in parenting, I don't think we find masterness. We find connection. We find deeper understanding. We become more and more willing to be present to ourselves, and in turn being present to our children. And it's about connecting on a deeper level, not just with the kids, but with ourselves and with our partners. And the whole stress of being alive, got a job, all those things are having a bearing on every child. And so it's important to know, for me, yesterday, Quinn has basketball practice. I coach his teams, as does Casper. Casper got stuck in traffic, really bad traffic, so he didn't make it to training. And then by the time Quinn and I got home, Casper had already left to go kayak. So Quinn didn't see him yesterday. And we get home, and Quinn completely falls apart. Just really deeply, hurting in his heart because he didn't get to see his dad yesterday. It was Monday. No, it was Tuesday. He'd seen his dad the day before. It was a really intense weekend. We were finishing a lot of the pieces of the renovations. So Casper and I were both really like focused in that direction. And so I start to see, so the weekend was a bit less time that he had with Casper. He wasn't home Monday till late, and now Tuesday he didn't show up because he was in traffic. He hasn't seen him really for 4 days, and so I could just be like, yeah, of course you miss your dad, And so then we tried to call him, and it didn't work. He just kept getting more devastated, and I just held him. Of course you miss your dad. It's okay. It's all right. And then normally Wednesdays Casper's here. He's not here. And it was all these things, but it was like recognizing that his tantrum or but it was like real, it was genuine, his pain has a reason. Like noticing that all the stressors of life, all the things that are going on in your life, in your husband's life, in your spouse's life, in their father's life, whatever that dynamic is, they're sucking it all in, right? And they have really deep needs to be seen and loved and heard. And it's really important to remember that just as much as you're affected by all of those things, so are they. And they're more open conduits for it, right? We have learned to armor ourselves somewhat. I don't anymore. I don't even know what that's like. But they don't have that. They're just sucking it all in, and they need an outlet and a place to let that flow through them. So if he's ADD or overactive, whatever it is, he's probably just flowing that energy like a crazy. And it's something to appreciate. He's moving it through, but he's not being annoying on purpose. No way. No. It's not how it works. Okay, I have to take my oldest son to his basketball practice. Thank you for being here in this conversation. All of those of you that are here live and those of you that joined later, there's no other conversation I would want to be in. Thank you.